I see Hannah. Hannah, I am unmuting you, so you should be able to chat now so folks can hear you.
Okay, I don't have a webcam on my computer,
That's
but
okay.
audio.
And can you see that I'm projecting your poster right now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Um, perfect. Then I will let you take it away and kind of
Okay.
explain, how you came up with this project, who your partner was, and what you did.
Okay, so my project was studying the water quality of two different lake systems, one of which I live in. I live in Coventry. I go to Coventry High School. I'm currently a junior. Um, Within this project, we basically tested a bunch of different measures of like particles within the lake. Like we tested DO, um, a lot of like I forget most of it, but I haven't revisited this project since August. My collection was during the summer. So I came up with this project because the lake that I go to, which is pronounced Wangumbaug, it's a Native American lake. It's very important to my town because a bunch of people live around it, and it's been a part of our community for like ever since the town even started. So I wanted to dedicate part of my project to seeing what we can do to fix this lake because I know there have been previous problems with it. And to add a more comparison to this, to see what other towns are doing, I studied the Bolton Lake system, which has an upper, middle, and lower section, and it's about the same length as Coventry Lake. So during the summer, me and my partner, who had to unfortunately drop out because she just had too much on her plate with studying at grad school, we took two different samples. We took three, but unfortunately lost the third one. And we used EpiCollect and two different sites on Coventry Lake, and then one site on each of the lake systems. And over the summer, we just went when there was like specific weather conditions that matched each, so it had to be sunny, and then it had to be like no tides or anything, so that each time they were consistent. So my results found that um, there were a lot of pollutants, and within Coventry Lake, the amount of TDS was very high, I'm pretty sure. And then there were some issues with connectivity. The pH was a bit off in some sections, either being at a 6 or an 8 at Coventry. Bolton didn't have as much problems with this as we found throughout our data. So to connect this data to basically a wider subject matter and as to why this was happening at Coventry but not at Bolton, Nicole and I met up and we looked at the total impervious cover and the percent of roads within each lake basin. And we found that, as you can see within our poster, Coventry Lake has a much higher coverage rate of impervious and roads, while Bolton doesn't have as much that is close to the lake. And the issue that we found with the amount of impervious cover and the amount of roads is basically stormwater runoff from when it rains and the salt on the road from when we would be salting the roads during the winter. Which we found kind of interesting that it was still affecting it even in the summer because I know my town stops salting the roads around like January, but I'm not sure about when Bolton stops salting the roads. So we found that since this Coventry Lake has more housing around the lake in general, like there's houses basically at each inch of the lake, you can't really find a place where there's no houses. While Bolton has no houses around the lake, I've only found maybe like 10 at each section. There had to be something with this runoff affecting the lake and how many houses were on the lake.
Yeah. So I do want to draw people's attention to your graphs. Like you just like you said, the conductivity and the total dissolved solids were higher in the Coventry Lake than the Bolton Lakes. And I know that even though the salting of the roads happens in the winter, those salts can stay in the aquatic ecosystem for a long time. So Chet just wrote a comment that says that the results are consistent to what we would expect, even though both watersheds are fairly low in impervious cover. So they are pretty low. It's 9% and just 4.5% or so, which is really low. I mean, especially the Bolton Lakes are mostly surrounded by forested habitat. The percent impervious cover was from the CT Eco map. They were, I think, IC by basin, or wherever that data comes from. It was specific to that lake basin. So just the areas in the map that you can see that are highlighted in that kind of green color. If you look at satellite images of the two lakes, you really can see the difference in the amount of houses and roads that are immediately adjacent. I know, because I used to live in Coventry, that there's a lot of recreation on Coventry Lake. I'm much less familiar with Bolton and if people recreate there at the same level. Hannah, I don't know if you saw people out recreating when you were collecting your data.
We only saw like kayakers, and that was basically it. We didn't see any boats.
Okay.
While we were on there, while in Coventry, it was consistent that there were people on boats, like water skiing and all that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know the regulations for Bolton. I mean, some lakes are not allowed to have motorized boats on. But I'll be clear that, the idea of it being road salts that are contributing to these differences is just a hypothesis. We didn't specifically test it, but it is consistent, like I said, with other situations people are familiar with. Hannah, what would you say was the biggest challenge with this project?
The biggest challenge was trying to find areas in which they were consistent throughout both lakes, because they're two different ecosystems, so it's very hard to find spots in the lake where we can test that will be consistent throughout both. I guess was our main issue, because Coventry had a lot more recreation, as you said, while Bolton didn't have as much, so trying to find a balance between the two.
That's great. I like that it was your goal to keep it consistent between the two. Tyler asked if you were surprised at all by your results.
I was not surprised by Coventry, just because I know how much the people who live on the lake salt their roads and want driveways salted.
Mm-hmm.
But I was surprised with Bolton because I expected it to be more, since Bolton has a higher population than we do at Coventry.
I wouldn't have thought of that. Yeah. Oh, good. If anyone has any other questions for Hannah, they can type those in the chat box. David said, great to see how comparisons are being made to lake are important to the town. Nitrogen and phosphorus, I believe you tested both of those, but I think the values I don't think those were different.
Yeah, we omitted those values just because they weren't that important to what we were studying, and they were normal at that point.
And what would you say is the biggest thing you took away from this project?
Probably trying to go towards eco-friendly alternatives, like we have a bullet point in the results and discussion, maybe using sand instead of road salt, because road salts have a lot of chemicals in them, especially chloride, which is very detrimental to lake systems. It can affect dissolved oxygen a lot and the conductivity. So maybe trying to implement different ones into both towns, because they're both effects in both towns. And I know Coventry has an environmental board that they in the summer usually, so potentially try to bring that up to them and see if they'll be on board with trying to slowly but surely implement different usages.
This seems like something that would be worth sharing with that environmental board. You know, you could share your poster with them just so they're made aware of your results.
Yeah, that was one of our plans and one of our goals to do by the end of this project.
And I know it's been tough, I think, balancing your schedule because you are very active in theater at school, right?
Yeah.
So thanks for sticking with it. I know it wasn't maybe the easiest thing to do. So, and thanks again for participating today. I really appreciate you making the effort.
You're welcome. Well, I don't have any school, so.
That's right. What else do you have to do? Were you able to get the your last play done?
No, unfortunately we got canceled.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay.